The Monday, April 11th, 2022 regular meeting of the Paris City Council is hereby called to order at 5:30 p.m. For the purpose of this meeting, there is a quorum of the council present. Item number 2, Mr. Gene Anderson will deliver the invocation. And item number 3, the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Mayor Pro Tem Hughes. Please rise.
May we pray? Heavenly Father, we're indeed thankful for all that you do for us, and we know, Father, without your blessing, your grace, your mercy, Father, we can't take the next breath or speak the next word or even take the next step. So, Father, we acknowledge that, and we just ask that you would lead us and guide us tonight as we conduct the city's business. We pray that all would be done in a way that glorifies your name. For we do ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 4A is to recognize outgoing City Council member Renee Stone for her service to the City of Paris. Ms. Stone, if you would come down, meet me down here. On behalf of the City of Paris, we wish to recognize Ms. Renee Stone for her dedication and outstanding service as council member for District 1 from May 2018 to February 2022. Ms. Stone, congratulations.
Congratulations, Mother of Pearl.
Ms. Mayor Pro Tem Hughes, if you would come down. And item number 4B is to recognize citizen Yolanda Reeves for winning the Small Town America Civil Volunteer Award. It's a pleasure to meet you. Excuse me. Why don't you stand between us?
That's okay, never mind.
On behalf of the City of Paris, we would like to recognize Ms. Yolanda Evett Reeves with the 2021 Small Town America Civic Volunteer Award. Mrs. Reeves was nominated for this award by the Paris Police Department as a result of her outstanding volunteer service and civic engagement throughout the community. She was selected as a winner from over 700 nominations in 49 states. Mrs. Reeves has consistently organized events focused on caring for others, mostly children and the elderly in the community, as well as organized the city's Juneteenth and Martin Luther King parades.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. That's right, girl.
Item number 4C is the Citizens Forum. Persons desiring to address the council must limit their presentation to no more than 2 minutes. Unless an item is posted on the agenda, the Texas Open Meeting Act prohibits the council from responding to any comments other than to refer the matter to a future agenda, to an existing policy, or to a staff person with specific factual knowledge. Claims against the city council members, or employees, as well as individual personal appeals, are not appropriate for citizens' forum. If necessary, the city council may convene into executive session under Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code regarding any item on this agenda. The public forum is now open. Is there anyone wishing to address the council? Seeing none? Well, welcome, Mr. Coyle. How are
Hello.
you?
I'm Matt Cool. I reside at 112 South Main Street here in downtown. And just quickly wanted to, again, voice my support of the stop signs in the downtown area. It's had a noticeable difference in the traffic flow near my house, in both the sound and the safety, feeling of safety when you're walking around downtown. So, and of course, continuing with our lighting and all of the things that we're trying to do for the downtown. Thank you for your support and your continued support. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Coyle. Anyone else wishing to address the council?
I am.
Please come forward, state your name and address.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Santiago Pena. I just purchased 433 West Washington here in Paris, and I'm looking to purchase the property next door at 503. It's an empty lot, but it has liens on the property, and I want to address the board to see if we can get some of those liens released or clear them all, whatever we need to do, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Mr. Pena.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the council? Seeing none, the public forum is closed. Next item is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are approved by a single action of the council, with such approval applicable to all items appearing on the consent agenda. A council member may request any item to be removed from the consent agenda and considered as a separate item. Council, anyone wish to remove an item? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve all items on the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0. I had some math lessons last week. Item number 10, discuss and act on a resolution to waive the principal and interest on a dangerous structure abatement lien in the amount of $15,373.09 on property described as City of Paris, Block 155, Lot 3, located at 503 West Washington Street, to facilitate sale of the property to an adjacent neighbor. Mr. Path?
Yes, as Mr. Pena has just come forward, I'll ask him to come up again in a short bit here. Back in January of 13, the City of Paris demolished the primary structure at 503 West Washington Street. This was the residence. There was still a shed behind the property left there. At the time, January 11th of 13, the city, we spent $6,519.69. So a lien was placed on the property as the standard for all work we do, whether it's nuisance or structure abatements. Since that time, it is accrued interest at about 10% a year since that date. And so Mr. Santiago Pena has purchased the neighboring property at 433 West Washington within the last year, and so he'd like to extend his yard into 503 West Washington. He has informed me he also like to, his house currently does not have a driveway, so he'd like to extend the driveway through that property to give access to his house as well. You have been given in your packets his proposal, and so you will see that in your packets, what he plans to do with the property, some of the work he'd like to do to tear down the existing shed, do some cleanup. He has already done a lot of the cleanup of the property. In fact, I went out there last week to look at the property. He had a crew out there at the shed with a dumpster emptying the shed out, so he has already started doing the work there. But he'd like to continue doing that. He'd like to buy the property, but at this point we have about $15,000 worth of liens on the property. As you look at his proposal, and I'm going to ask Mr. Payne to come here and discuss it some more, he looks to do some more improvements. Again, tear the shed down, remove some concrete in the property. There's some concrete there that used to be for like the walkway to the old house. Remove some old stumps on the property. Do some leveling of the property to remove some low spots for water settling. He has stated he plans to spend about $20,000 on the property in total through other investments like sprinkler system and fencing and so forth. The current sale is about $1,000 to buy the property. Let's see here. Now, so he has asked that the city council forgive the owed expense on the lien and release the lien to the property. Typically liens are paid and then released, but he's asking that we waive the fees, waive the accrued principal and interest at this time. Now, according to 4.03.009 of our code, the city council are the ones who consider structure liens. As a city manager, I consider nuisance liens, but council does structure liens. We've not done very many of these since I've been here, so to just kind of give you some thoughts, whenever I look at nuisance liens, when I consider those, my first and foremost is I like to protect the taxpayer dollar, so I try to resist forgiving liens when possible, but at the same time, given every situation is unique, I like to also try to find a way to get the property in the hands of someone who will take care of it. And so many of the liens that I deal with are properties that are either taxes not being paid or they are a continual nuisance. And so sometimes I have determined that I will forgive a nuisance lien because it gets it into the hands of someone who will maintain it. Now, I will say in this situation here, the taxes are all paid, and we've not had any nuisance liens on the property since that time, so it has been maintained since we put the structure lien on there. Looking at the total situation here, the property is valued at about $8,000. The principal is $6,500. The interest is another $8,000. So currently, the principal plus interest exceeds the value of the property, although the value of the property exceeds the value of the principal. So there's some things you can think about as you're considering whether to forgive or not. It is currently zoned 2F. Again, we have not had any issues with taxes being paid or so forth. But otherwise, we do have an interested buyer who wants to buy it, who wants to maintain it, whereas, according to Mr. Pena, the current owner is deceased, and so the family is now the heirs of the property. So will they maintain the property? You never know. That's the situation we always face is will they, in fact, take care of the property or not? That's always a risk that we, through code enforcement, have to deal with. So with that, before I discuss your options, I'm going to ask Mr. Pena to come up here and speak with you if you want to ask him questions as you consider forgiving the lien or not. Then I'll come back up here and discuss the options that you can consider tonight if you don't have any others. So, Mr. Pena?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So, I bought a firecracker that was sitting there for a long time, hadn't popped, and it's getting ready to. And I was unaware of all the liens that were on that property. I was also unaware that I did not own the driveway to the house I just bought in December. I thought we owned the property and the neighbor was using the property as his driveway as well. Turns out last week I found out through the surveyor they own the property, I do not. I'm actually using the driveway. And since we've been trying to move in here and there, there's been conflict with the neighbor. He's put up no parking signs. I mean, it's crazy. So my best bet is to buy the property next door, clear it, level it. We've already filled two 30-yard dumpsters. There was so much stuff on that property, it was crazy. There's still probably another dumpster full of metal and scrap and motorcycle parts, car parts. I mean, it's terrible. We've trimmed all the trees. We've mowed, taken everything that we can take. We took down the rear sheds. There was another 2 sheds in the back. We took those and removed all that. So all that's left is the garage. But it looks like someone lived in it before, so it's got a lot more stuff in it than just a garage. It's insulated. It's got wiring. I mean, it's like a small house. So our benefit is to buy it, take that away, beautify the property. I bought the three properties on Parr Street behind 433. Those have been cleaned, and they're absolutely gorgeous. If you drive by there, they're just absolutely gorgeous. So we would like to add the 503, and I'm going to try to, if possible, get the little house that's next to us, so that way we don't have the feud that's going on now. So we want to do new fencing, we want to do lighting. It's very dark over there. It needs to be kept, and I'm willing to do it. I'm not out of Paris, I'm out of Dallas. I've been in the construction business for 43 years. I do steel structure. That's what I know, that's what I do. I love the house, I love the town. I bought the 700 West Center Street Sesame Solutions property, Sesame Seed, I guess it was called Sesico. Back in 2012, we've been working on that property. I'm part of the high-speed rail project, so we're bidding all of the steel staircases, railing, gutter systems, anything having to do with steel, we're bidding that. And I want to bring that work here. We're looking at putting on 350 to 400 employees, and I want to do it in Paris. And I'm just asking for a little help to get me there, and we're looking to kick off this project in July of 2023. So I have to prepare now. We're working also on the 700 West Center Street property. I have to put 2 more buildings on that land so that we can be able to build the staircases. They're 4 stories high, and there's over 300 of them. So there's a lot happening, and I would like to be part of the community. And I'm welcome to be here, I know, but I would also like to help in any way that I can.
Thank you, Mr. Pena. Do you have any questions?
No.
Do you plan to develop your property on Washington Street?
The house is gorgeous. It's the Bailey Ragland house on the historical deal. There's not much development to do. I'm thinking that if at all possible, in the future, we get our house situated in a driveway in there where everybody's calm. I'll have 5 properties that we can build on. So I'm ultra-modern guy. I love ultra-modern houses, concrete, steel, and glass. It's a great area over there. The lots are large, and I'm thinking that in the future, that's what I would like to do, is build out there, buy more of those properties that are not being cared for, knock them down, and build something better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No further questions?
No.
Thank you
Thank you so much.
for your work you're doing. Mr. Path, you have a recommendation for us?
Well, the options we have for the council are one, you can not waive anything, 2, you can waive everything, or 3, something in the middle. You can either waive all the interest or all the principal, or some combination of all that. Another option is what that Mr. Pena and I have discussed as well. It kind of goes off of a similar one that the council considered here recently, was to do some kind of a performance-based type situation to where, Mr. Pena would pay a certain amount, either the principal or something, and then if he performs X, Y, and Z, tears the shed down, we reimburse that. And so there's a lot of things you can look at there. Looking at his proposal there from the nuisance mindset, the biggest things that we would, as a city, be looking at is the shed itself, the garage. He's already done a lot of cleanup out there, so that's very good. But otherwise, the sprinkler system, the fencing, that's not really something that we as nuisance monitor so much. So I would not base a performance review off of that necessarily, because that's good, but that's not something that we would concern ourselves when it comes to nuisances. So the biggest thing we look at is the shed, the dilapidation of that shed, and so forth. So if you were to go that route, given the work he's already done, I would just base the performance off of that, moving that shed. But again, these are all your options. I've informed Mr. Pena that if he were to increase his yardage, he'd have to probably work with community development in order to replat. Does he need dirt work? We have to have permits for that, so he's aware of all that as well. So, but at this point here, I don't have a solid recommendation for you. I know when I do nuisance liens, I typically try to resist forgiving principal because it's actually money spent. But again, every situation is different. I know there are some situations where I have forgiven it, and especially with the value of the property is too low, or if the buyer is clearly non-cooperative, we got to move into someone's hands. I've had to make decisions like that on nuisance liens. I don't know if we quite have in this situation here, but at the same time, I could see a property like this being forgotten and one day being a tax foreclosure property too, and then we will be stuck with it and having to maintain it. So these things just go that way sometimes. So.
But the waiver of the, the waiver of the lien, that would be for the owners, current owners, right?
Well,
How would that work?
yes and no. I mean, the liens are paid. As a city, we don't concern ourselves with who pays the lien. It's against the property. So it will carry with the property if they don't settle it. Now, typically, whenever you do a title search, you discover that and you learn that, but that's not always the case. There have been situations where they don't do title search and then they transact the property, and the previous owner has now hightailed it out, and the new person is stuck with the bag.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mr. Pena just need clear direction from us on what we plan to do, and that will help him decide if he wants to buy that property or not. Is
I
that
believe so,
correct?
yes.
Is that pretty much the
Yes.
case? Yes, sir. Okay.
yes. Will we waive it or not? And if we do waive it, do we waive all of it? Do we waive some of it? So this obviously sets a precedent, and so we do tear down lots of houses across town.
Yeah.
Again, every situation is unique. We don't get that many requests for this, but I just do not have a good recommendation for you because
But if we waive this, if we vote today to waive this, and then he decides not to buy it, then the waive goes to the current owner, right?
That would be correct, yeah. If we waive it, if we release the lien, if we go forward and sign the document and release the lien, then yes, it would be forever waived. And if Mr. Pena were not to buy it, then the current owner would get the benefit of that. So if you were to say to release the lien, we would do it in combination of the selling process, where we work with a company, the title company, to release it as a transaction is happening. That does happen whenever we release liens. We do it as part of the purchasing process. I know Ms. Harris and her assistant takes care of that process. Am I speaking correctly? Yeah.
So it's almost like we can almost guarantee that even if we voted in tonight to waive the liens, that it wouldn't go to the current property owners. Am I saying that right?
If you wish, I could amend the resolution that's in your packet to make it contingent upon the sale going through.
Yeah, I think that would be
That's an
safer.
easy enough thing to do.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd be more comfortable with that.
yeah.
I'm good with that.
I think this is a good thing. I mean, for all the investment that you put in to the surrounding areas too. I mean, I think that's a fair combination to say that, you are looking to, put your roots in the ground here in this community. So just from what you've presented thus far, I feel fairly comfortable with that. I think that's good.
Further discussion?
No, just wanted to make sure that whatever we voted on today went to him and not the current owner.
Well, I will hear a motion for an amended resolution that this would apply to Mr. Pena only as a purchaser.
And is that to release the entire lien principal and interest?
I'll make it. I'll make the motion that we waive, I guess, the entire structure lien on 503 West Washington Street with the amendment of contingent on it, that it only applies to Mr. Pena.
Contingent upon the sale going through,
Okay,
yes.
yeah, all right. That motion.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. A motion and a second. All those in favor of the amended resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries 7-0. Item number 11 is to discuss the fees for the downtown vacant building registry and provide direction to staff. I placed this item on the agenda because I felt like we just needed to know the status of that we passed several of us were on the council. I know Ms. Knox and I were. The latest number, has that decreased significantly? I also thought at the time that we passed the resolution, we had intended, I believe, for that fee to go up $100 every year. It's not, it's just going up $50 a year for those property owners.
Can you remind me what exactly the need, or I mean, exactly the process and the fee? Because I've kind of remember pieces of it, but can you remind us?
Mr. Mack might be better at that than I, but we have so many vacant buildings that were being used for storage only with no intention to develop
So a vacant
rehab.
building would be constituted no CO?
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Mack?
I have a list before me right now that shows that we have a total of 39 properties in Historic District 1. These are principally addressing commercial buildings. Of this list, the notices go out. I'm going to actually change that process next year, so this is a calendar year registry fee that's paid. And we've been sending the letters out in the end of January or January. This year they went out on February 1st. Of those 39 properties, we've actually received payment of a couple of those.
So there's 39 vacant.
Correct.
What was it?
If I understand this list correctly.
Okay. Wait, is there a total number? I'm just wondering. Totally.
39.
Total period, vacant and non-vacant?
You meant non-vacant? Vacant. There's far more than 39 properties.
That's what I'm wondering. I wonder how many what our percentage of vacant, I guess.
I don't have that answer.
Okay.
This evening.
Do you know how many we started with when we passed this ordinance?
I didn't prepare that research this
Okay.
evening. I didn't know that I was going to need to put this together.
Okay, yeah, I know. I appreciate you doing what you've done. It really helps. I don't want us to have an ordinance that we don't need, but to me, it sounds like we still need it, and that $50 a year increase is not doing all that much. While we do see and appreciate that a lot of the owners of downtown buildings are rehabbing those and either selling them or leasing them, but I don't believe we're through with this yet. Any thoughts or questions of Mr.
Well,
Mack?
What you said, I'd say it's $50 a year for a vacant building.
No, it's $500.
Oh, 500?
And it goes up $50 every year, but that's not been a deterrent. For
Right.
some people, that's cheap storage.
Right.
Some buildings downtown have
Yeah.
vehicles in them.
And did you say that only 2 or 3 has paid it?
We have a process whereby, actually, I've directed my staff to begin a more friendly approach, making phone calls and making contacts. Otherwise, from there, they get an official notice that says you have not paid. There's a process, then you'll go to, municipal court if it's unpaid. And so I'm trying to start a little bit more of a proactive, friendlier approach to start with this year.
So when it goes to municipal court, are we receiving any of the money after that?
Yeah, we've only had a few that see, if you're vacant, there are exceptions allowed. If you have a building permit in process, or if you're in the middle of transacting the building. So a lot of buildings actually qualify for an exemption, and we had. I don't have the numbers in front of me. We had several that did not. So some paid. We had, I think, 3 or 4 that did not pay, and there were complications in those that we did not pursue, and things that we can discuss at a more private time. And for some of those owners, we only one of those are ones we probably should have took to court, and things got away from us. And so, but we're looking at, now that we have more staff involved, we're looking at pursuing that better this year. So, but in the end, though, we only had maybe a dozen that needed to pay. So the rest of them met an exemption requirement. So,
From what I understand, this has really filled a lot of the vacant buildings in downtown. Isn't that correct?
I would say so. I wasn't here when it was first passed, but from talking to my staff who were, and just hearing from business owners, it does sound like it has made a bit of a difference. I think there are other factors that involved as well.
Sure.
But this was definitely one of the factors that played into that encourage people to, okay, maybe it's time to move it on to someone else, or it's time to get something in there. So.
For those of you that weren't on the council at the time, it doesn't just include registering your building. It includes proof of insurance, which is very important. It includes working contact information from the owners, which is also important.
Safety inspection.
Correct.
Yeah.
Insurance.
Yeah, that's what she said, yeah.
City inspections, is that done annually?
Yes.
And that's by the fire marshal?
We do that. It's fire marshal, building official, code enforcement officer. It's our inspection process touched several areas: fire, code enforcement, and building. So we actually wrap the three of them, maybe an inspector as well, but wrap them into one process. So, if the council would like to see an increase of the fee, we can definitely prepare that and bring it back to you, and in an ordinance amendment form. And we just kind of need an idea about how much, or do we want to add another 50 on top of the 50? You want to add 100, or just we just need some guidance as to what to make the annual incremental value at. Right now it's 50.
Mr. Mack, have you had experience with vacant building registry in other cities? What would be standard or feasible?
I have not.
Okay.
My sense is that the most important thing here is that we are proactive, that we manage this list, that we work with the property owners, and that we do what we can to incentivize them. You know, there's a disincentive, obviously, if they don't, but I think we need to continue to do what we're doing. And when Grayson started here, he organized this into more of a team effort, which I think addressed some of the shortcomings. And so we'll continue to do the best we can. As far as the fees, that's council's decision.
Quick question on those 39 properties. Are they geared towards like commercial retail? Are they, housing? What, do we have any designation on what these 39 properties are kind of?
They're all downtown commercial. Is that the zoning district downtown's commercial? They're all commercial. Our zone doesn't extend much beyond the commercial downtown district.
Anything that would have to have a CO to operate doesn't have a
Anything,
CO
yes,
is on
yes.
this list, the way I
See,
understand
I mean,
it.
there are some other factors. If it can have a CO but appear to be abandoned as well.
Okay.
And so if it appears to be abandoned, again, that's part of the issue. Is an abandoned building are there issues not being watched? Given these buildings share walls and share sometimes utilities, the whole point is we need someone in there managing the facility, watching it, so that what happens this one doesn't spread to the next one. So
I'll also say, I'll commend the council and those that worked on this, because I know this was a huge hit. That's the reason why this has been a success, but I completely agree. I think we need to put a little bit more heat on it within reasonable standards, obviously, but I think that we do need to set forth a policy that kind of puts a little bit more heat on that. At the end of the day, we've got to get these properties, on the tax roll and start getting some tax revenue out of it.
Well, and make our downtown look alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Vacant buildings look dead.
Mm-hmm.
I have several concerns. This is a calendar year, so I don't know why we're starting in February.
that's what Mr. Mack addressed. He said we're going to start the process at the end of this year for next year. So yeah,
Right.
so we'll be starting in the fourth quarter, getting ready for January 1st.
And if possible, I would like to see better tracking. So if we know we have 39 vacant buildings as of January 1st, 2022, how many do we have January 1st or January, pick a date, any date, as long as it's consistent, that we have now this many. So we know whether the ordinance is working. When we don't have any more, we know we don't even need that ordinance anymore.
Yeah, if we had known to bring that tonight, we could have brought some more information tonight. We thought this was about the fees tonight, and so, but we do have we do have at least 1, if not 2 years of record. But yeah, we'll point well taken. We'll definitely maintain our efforts of tracking.
Great.
Would it be reasonable to potentially ask that we maybe get something in our agenda packet quarterly. I mean, so that way it's not too watered down every month. There's, but within it, every quarter we get some sort of update that, hey, out of the 39, we've had, 5 properties we've looked at or whatever, and maybe we list it out. So that way we also get a chance to track that also.
Yeah, we can add them to your consent agenda if you like. So it's kind of, here's our current list of structures that are out of compliance, basically, in this situation, so. Or those who, I guess those have been compliant as well, but those are vacant and where they're standing, compliant or non-compliant.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
What's the pleasure of the council on doing anything or nothing about the fees?
I'm under the impression 500 right now, so next year it'll be 550.
Well, 500 technically would have been a couple years ago. Well, like I say that, your very first year of being vacant is 500. And so there are some properties that have been there for 2 or 3 years now. So they're up
Okay,
to
I'm sorry. I
600,
get it now.
650, 700 now.
Whenever y'all did, this was before me, but I'm on Ms. Knox and Mayor. Is this been done in some other towns, or where did that? Okay.
Yes.
I hate to tax anybody, but I see the point in doing this because it ends up being cheap storage, and I know a few of them that are right now, and we don't ever get them back up and going. But the biggest concern I have, and the inspection side of it, is the safety deal. We've had a fire down there, and one of them, none of the fire system worked in there. Luckily, we got there quick enough, and everything was put out, but it was on the verge of going through 2 or 3 other businesses that are actually in operation right now. So I think it's something viable. But I'm okay with the 50 as it is now, in my opinion.
I just think that, I think that it would be nice to monitor it a little bit, and I really appreciate your thoughtfulness in trying to get it in a under a scheduled system, so thank you for that. The more information we have, the better we can approach things, and maybe we can look at, I would kind of keep the fees where they are right now, and look at it perhaps in another year or so and see how it goes, and then consider either changing the fee somehow at that time. But if we can get some consistent comparisons and data, then that would be, I think, the first step, and that would be great, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with Linda,
Yeah.
Ms. Knox on that.
I think we just need the facts so that we know what's working. Okay?
And I agree with the council. We just get more information and then we could readdress it.
Well, we will try to have, we can probably have our first report probably in May, and that way we'll have all the first quarter this year sized up and see what we're looking at, and then we can bring probably the second month of each quarter, perhaps that way we've got a month to wrap it all together, or sooner if possible, yeah. But we'll try to have some to you in May.
Well, that
Is that
sounds
okay,
great.
Andrew?
That sounds
That
great.
sounds really great. Thank you so much.
Thank you both. Item number 12, receive update from Garver Engineering on the wastewater plant project. Mr. Harris.
Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, and I'd like to personally welcome our newest council member, Councilmember Moore. Look forward to working with you. In October of last year, council received a 30% engineering design update from Garver. Garver is here again tonight. We've made much progress since that time. In fact, we advertised for pre-qualification of contractors beginning yesterday in the Paris News. That is also published on Civcast as well. And tonight, I am pleased to say we're at the 90% mark for engineering design and anticipated 100% completion of engineering design on May the 20th. So without any more delay, I'm going to introduce Lance Clement, the project manager for Garver, and Lance is going to provide you with a presentation tonight, at the end of which, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask those questions. So Lance?
Welcome back to Paris.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for the opportunity to present this. We're extremely excited about this project and really passionate, and can't say enough about your staff and just the passion that they have and you all have in this project. With everything y'all have going on, it's extremely impressive to see how important your city is taking this, and we're extremely honored to be a part of the project. With that, I do get passionate, but I'll try to keep it somewhat brief. I wanted to give y'all an overall status update. Working with Grayson and Doug, we thought it'd be a good opportunity because we're about to jump into a very active portion of the project. As Doug mentioned, up till date, all we've been working on is the design aspect of it. There are several components of the design that we've been working on, but we're about to involve a lot more entities in the project that includes contractors. And so if you haven't gotten any questions, we've been trying to limit those outside of our circle and keep those all through the formal CivCast process, but please don't hesitate to reach out if by some chance you get an off question. So first, the progress to date. As Doug said, the design schedule has been progressing smoothly. We began with council approval in February 8th of 2021. We got fast to work that spring, and we received the survey in May of 2021. We conducted geotechnical borings in August of 2021 as the design was progressing. We incorporated the findings from those studies and those survey results into our overall design. We submitted our 30% package in September, and then at each phase of these deliverables, we're having workshops with your staff and regular monthly progress meetings where they're actively engaged in going through our 3D models and identifying ways that we can improve the performance of the design, but also save costs. That's been a common theme throughout this project. How can we get what we need in this plant without spending money on bells and whistles? So kudos to the staff on being actively engaged throughout that whole project. I said it at the last time that I came to council, this is one of the most engaged staffs I've ever worked with when it comes to these large facility projects, and that's a testimony to the ownership that they're staking in this project. We submitted our 90% submittal in March of 2022. Doug and his staff have been actively reviewing that, providing feedback and comments. We also submitted to TCEQ March 31st of 2022. So TCEQ is the Texas Commission of Environmental Quality. They are the regulatory authority for both the design, construction, and operation of these treatment plants. So we anticipate receiving approval from them shortly. In the meantime, we've been fine-tuning our 90% design, going into 100%, and as Doug mentioned, going through a pre-qualification advertisement for interested contractors. So this is the first step. Advertise the project, require qualifications to be submitted, and we'll pre-qualify a group of contractors. Once we pre-qualify those contractors, they will be invited to actually submit a formal bid on the project once our design documents are complete. First, I wanted to take you through, as I presented on the last council meeting, we will have both a phase 1 for construction, and that's the necessities that we need immediately to improve within the plant. Phase 2 will come at a later date, depending on funding and how the bids come in for phase 1. But I wanted to point out some of the key features of that. This has been one of our key areas we've been working on the design. You'll see it represented through 3D models later in this slideshow. So first, the existing site, just to give you an example of what that site looks like and how many processes we're actually going to be touching out there. So here's a construction phasing. So all of the colored structures that you see in both blue and pink, those are new facilities. All of the blue facilities are going to be going in this phase 1 improvements, and then phase 2 will follow with that pink color. So as you can see, touching virtually every process out there on the plant, massive construction project that we are anticipating getting going later this summer. I did mention we submitted that to TCEQ. That included 90 really fully designed plans and specifications. Any comments that we may be getting back from them will be incorporated into the 100% set. That included several volumes of specifications detailing out what equipment and what construction methods are accurate for the project, and really guiding the contractors on what they will be bidding for the project. That's also followed by a very hefty drawing volume set that details out all the actual construction requirements for the project. Here's the proposed site overview, so you can see we've cleaned the site up quite a bit after the finalization of both phases of construction. Would be removing those large orbals in the center of the plant and replacing those with a lot more streamlined aeration basin complex. In this first phase, now I'm going to show you the phase 1 design components that will be going into construction later this year. Those include primary clarifiers, that's those 2 round structures with a primary clarifier sludge pump station. That's the building you see there beside those clarifiers. Our aeration basins, this is the heartbeat of the plant where all the actual treatment of the dissolved solids takes place. And you can see a blower building in the background there. We're also setting that up for future phases of the plant, so we want to make sure that we're not limiting your capacity. We're providing you treatment volume now, but in the future to be able to expand if you so choose, we're building that flexibility within these structures. You can see the final clarifiers. 3 of those are existing. We'd be adding a 4th with this project. And there in the background, you see those small gray structures. That's a RasWaz pump station, so it takes solids back to the head of that aeration basin train. Sludge dewatering. So the building you see on the right, that houses a significant part of equipment that the plant desperately needs right now. Don't know how aware most of y'all are, but the plant has been dealing with a large solids inventory that they've basically been renting equipment or using smaller equipment to get through until we can get this project in place. So that is desperately needed. The sludge holding tanks that you see on the left, that's those round structures. Those are coming in phase 2. Phase 1 will be the goal to put dewatering equipment out there immediately. Looking forward, so we're finalizing design. We're prepared to receive the pre-qualification packets in April. We would submit our 100% design back to the city in May, and we'll begin advertising in June. We would receive bids from the contractors in the July timeframe. We would anticipate recommending award either in July or August, depending on how those bid dates received come back to us, and then begin construction roughly August, September timeframe with a summer of 2024 phase 1 construction completion date. So it is a large project. You saw those facilities, roughly 2 years for construction completion, which is typical for a project of this size. So to allow for budgetary flexibility of phase 1, phase 2 design will be completed after the phase 1 bid award. So once we know how bids come in, we understand how much budget or how much of the facilities we're able to incorporate in phase 1. If there's any remaining facilities that have to get pushed to phase 2, we've built that flexibility into the design. So we're not redesigning twice. We're ready to take it and run with it through phase 2. We're targeting a phase 2 100% design submission there you can see in January 2023. And we would anticipate spring 2023 advertising for that phase 2 construction, roughly summer 2026 construction completion. This is all contingent upon phase 2 project construction. And Mayor, you had asked if there was methods that we're looking to minimize the variability of the market. Currently, we're employing every method possible with our contractors, our proposed construction documents. That includes things like contingencies that we've built within the cost estimates that we're reducing as we get closer to bid day and we hone in the price of those raw materials. We're regularly getting status updates from our manufacturers and projecting out based on where we bid, what we think those prices will come back on. We're identifying any methods within the construction that we can mitigate or reduce, value engineer, we call it in our industry, if there's ways that we can save costs. And then ease of construction. So this last submittal, our big focus was construction delivery and how they'll phase the actual improvements. Whenever we spell it out to the contractors, that eases their mind and it reduces their overall bids. So multiple methods that we're employing to save the capital. We understand that's the big driver for this project. With that, we'll open it up if there's any questions.
I've got a quick question. I know Doug, I think we covered this in one of our meetings, but the big thing that I want to make sure of is obviously as our community grows, do we have the right components and the right capacity for everything? And I believe if we answer this correctly, I think we do, but I mean, seeing the developments that are coming in with people wanting to put in neighborhoods and things like that, do we actually have enough capability to streamline this project? And especially if something happens, if we boom, what's the kind of outlook?
You get a finance that, Doug? Yes, sir. So, yeah, that's an excellent question. We face the same question with virtually every city that we're working with right now, because not only your residential growth, but also the potential for new industry to come in. Now, none of us have a crystal ball on what that future industry looks like. It can vary tremendously depending on what they want to produce. So something like a food production facility will contribute a lot more what we call BOD, biological oxygen demand, and that really has the biggest impact on your treatment plant and what processes and process sizing you have built within there. This design does have flexibility to take on additional customers. We've built that in both now and in the future. If you choose to expand beyond the capacity limits for what we're designing around, you'll still have that flexibility. And we've purposefully designed it from that standpoint, and also the potential for future regulatory limits. So aside from growth, if TCEQ comes in and changes your discharge permit, we've built in flexibility there as well.
Fantastic.
No, it's a common question.
For those,
I was talking to Doug earlier before the meeting, and I think when this first, me and then Mayor Clifford came to his office, we were in there, and right after I got on the council, I visited the facility, and of course, it's something we always forget about. We don't ever go look at. And I got to commend Doug and staff and everybody that what we have is a Model A. We don't even have a Model T. And it's hard to keep that, especially with the rain events that we've had in the last 5 or 6 years. And we're just in our facility from help me with, but we have a upstream tank from there to some manhole situations and old lines that we have, and we're gaining water that we don't even use just going into the facility. That's going to be a huge benefit as we repair.
Part of our discussion, we do have what we call a flow equalization facility. And what that is, it's an impound basin. So when the flows become greater than what the plant can take, we will divert that wastewater into those basins and then release it on a schedule that the plant can adequately treat that without exceeding permit limits on there. Now, you had mentioned along the line from that facility to the master lift station to the head of the plant, that's an old line that will be in phase 2 construction. There's a lot of inflow and infiltration. Right now, that's a gravity line, which means there's manholes located along the length of that line. Some of those manholes are in really bad shape. It's allowing, like when we had the rains last week, rainwater just coming into that line.
We looked at it, at one time we were thinking that we could have up to 1 million gallons a day roughly of extra non-use water, whatever, you have a different word for it. I call it add-on water.
Inflow and infiltration.
Yeah.
I don't want to commit to an answer that's been discussed previously, but it's a very large volume.
100,000 gallons. It's a
very,
lot. I mean,
very large volume.
That's something, and again, these things nobody wants to talk about or think about because they're not very much fun to look at, and they don't smell very good. But I'm on the economic development side, and Maureen can speak for this. She stepped out for a second, but some of the companies that we've talked to or we're talking to currently, they see this. This is a huge deal for employment. This is a huge deal for industry. I come from a food industry background and can understand that this is a huge piece of the puzzle for a lot of these big companies, and they're looking at that and they say, okay, well, they've got the capacity and they're pretty efficient with it too. We've got some of the best water in the world to sell, but we were definitely lacking in this area. So I'm extremely excited to see it finally. I can't believe we're already here, but I'm excited about it.
Yes. And since Councilman Pilgrim brought up that gravity line between the flow EQ and the head of the plant, that will actually be transitioned from gravity flow to force main. So all those manholes along the length of that line, they will go away. So
I might refresh everybody's memory that this current plant was built, I think, shortly after World War II. And if the staff ever could not repair something and the plant was down, I think TCEQ fines us $10,000 a day. Is that correct?
It depends on the violation.
Okay.
But yeah, they can, the fines can approach 10,000 a day. Yes, ma'am.
No, we couldn't afford not to do this step. And
I don't think we were at the point, we were getting to the point too, where the outflow permit, where TCEQ gets to a certain percentage of our outflow, and then they kind of take over more or less and help us build it how they think we should build it. So being more proactive, I think, I'm glad our council and everybody agrees on this and we're pushing forward, because I would much rather us build it than get a government agency involved and them telling us how to do it.
any questions?
No, I just have a comment for Mr. Harris and his team. I mentioned to you before, but I commend you for keeping that plant in operation, considering the challenges that we face every day. I've toured that plant several times. I get excited. Like Mr. Clayton said, some people don't care for it. I understand the process clearly. And Mr. Clement, I thank you again for another great presentation and what your team is doing to move this thing forward. This is going to be great for the city of Paris. So I'm excited about it. And Mr. Harris, when the opportunity presents itself, I'd like to attend another tour and then also another project meeting if that's okay. That's all I have. Thanks.
We do have a good staff. Thank you for recognizing them.
Yes, ma'am.
Any further questions?
Thank you all. It's an honor working with you.
We'll see you at the next visit. Item number 13, discuss and act on a resolution approving an economic development residential tax abatement agreement with Jeffrey S. Brown pursuant to the city's 5 and 5 Housing Infill Development Program. Mr. Mack.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I am disappointed to report Mr. Brown is not in good health and unable to attend tonight. And in the Browns' place, their general contractor, Adam Bolton, is with me here this evening to present this agreement for 5 and 5. So just a quick summary. The council, this is your second 5 and 5 agreement. The council's already approved the very first 5 and 5 agreement. It was for 7 single-family homes that will be sold once completed, owner occupied. I have a little bit more good news about that. I had the opportunity today to attend the Lamar County Board of Commissioners, and they have adopted and paralleled the city's 5 and 5 program and approved their first tax abatement for Mr. McKinney. And so we are very pleased that we are moving together in unison on this. And I think the more we keep having these successes, the more hope for an overall great benefit to the community as a whole. What you have before you this evening is 3 new duplexes. You've recently rezoned this property. You see where they're located here on the map. It's this property, and this property. They intend to start with, is it 2 duplexes right away?
That's correct.
And I think with that, staff is certainly recommending that you approve the ordinance, but I'd like to introduce Mr. Bolton and see if you have further questions or let him offer a brief presentation on behalf of the Browns.
Appreciate it. Council, thanks for your time. My name's Adam Bolton, and I am representing the Brown family tonight in this application. Little history on this project. Shane Brown was paralyzed in a 18-wheeler rollover in 2018 or 19, I believe. In that recovery process, he has a lot of needs in general, and one of those being his living conditions. So they owned this lot right before his accident. So throughout that time, we've subdivided and rezoned those lots and have drawn plans that fit in those footprints. One of those plans, and specifically one of those units of the plans, is going to be wheelchair accessible to allow Shane to live and have a live-in nurse caretaker with him in those units. So with that being said, we will plan to start on his unit and a second duplex concurrently. Liberty Bank says they want to get those in and leased, the sale of their full-time residence sold, and then we'll start the third. So with that, we'll have 4 doors in this day and age. I'd like to say 6 months, probably closer to 8 to 10, just with availability and labor, with the second 2 to meet that 5 and 5 requirement within days, if not weeks, of them selling their home. Just want to say thank you to Andrew, his team, and the guys in the building department, Duke, James, and Manager Path's leadership. Obviously, it's y'all's vision that they're implementing, and it's not just wastewater treatment plants that they've got their focus on. It's smaller projects like these that are helping the community, and we appreciate it. Any questions?
No, it sounds great. We're glad you're involved.
Thanks, appreciate it. Y'all have a good evening.
No discussion, I'll hear a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 5 and 5 infill development agreement with Jeffrey S. Brown.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0. Item number 14, receive presentation from staff about the new Community Development Online Permitting Management and Information System Overview. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. It's with great pleasure that I introduce our new building official, Duke McGee, and James Hooten, our new assistant building official. Duke began his position here with the city late November, early December of last year. And Duke has brought a passion to systems management and helping to establish some continuity within our building inspection program and development processes. I'm very excited that he has prepared this presentation for you. You've been given a packet that has the full booklet, the full work booklet that he has prepared and produced to further implement development policies that we've created, being able to take projects from the horizontal civil site improvements up through the building permit process. And this is the entire spectrum. A lot of information. It'll all be available on our website. And this will be one of the featured things as we move forward this fall to schedule the building and development forum that we postponed due to the pandemic. It's still our hopes that will proceed in the fall. Once we set a date, so this will be part of that program. But council has the presentation tonight from Duke, and it was with great pleasure I turn it over to Duke to walk you through the system.
Thank you, Duke.
Thank you.
First of all, I'd just like to emphasize again the purpose of the building department, building inspection department, is to promote the health, safety, and welfare of the community and for future citizens. And what we did is we took, or the goals we set was to increase customer service, to improve interdepartmental communication, to expedite the permit issuance, to observe all our regulations and compliances that we have to observe, and then to educate the public, the contractors on the importance of building safety, building construction. And in doing that, what we did was we took all the policies that we had kind of scattered out around, and the engineering department, and the planning department, and the building department, and we put them all together in one manual, one process manual with 7 steps for a development process. And then we took the permits, and instead of having 5 or 6 or 10 generic permits, we actually have now, in the front of your books there's 2 papers. You open them up there. The first one is some handout literature, and the second one, oh, you know what, I'm sorry, I didn't give you that one. And all I have, I should have printed more, I guess I can, I won't even worry about that. We made about 40 or 50 permits actually now, but they're all job specific. So when they apply for the permit, it's specific to the actual job or contract that they're performing. So they can give us more information, less confusing, if you understand. So instead of filling out a whole bunch of stuff, they can be specific with what they need. And then that expedites the permit process. And then with the MyGov, we have a MyGov permitting software that we've created a process for that matches this development manual. And in that, the contractor, the developer, and all the city departments can monitor a project from start to finish, which increases communication so that we're not having to one department emailing another department or a contractor emailing the wrong person, emails getting lost, phone conversations not getting tracked. It can all be done through MyGov. And it's an ongoing process. We're learning MyGov right now, the contractors and us ourselves, the different departments. And as that progresses, we should be able to increase our efficiency even more. And in that MyGov, they have what they call a citizens database or information center. So we're putting all this information in that database. And it's not just the building inspection department or the planning department, it's fire department, EMS, police department, any information that the city needs. So a citizen can come in, type a question, and find that answer. And I'm going to try to get on there so that we can see that, if I can figure out how to get out of this presentation. We kind of have to get on MyGov right now in kind of a roundabout way, but we're working on that too. So just kind of a brief overview. This is on the city's webpage. You can click on the knowledge base. And then here you can see where we put some questions and the citizens can type in, like say zoning. And here's some of the questions that are in the back in the question and the answers. And you know, how do I plan and zone, or how do the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council obtain public input? And there's the answer. They can find that answer fairly fast, fairly easy. And then this is the landing page for MyGov. You go here to the Download and Information Center. And these are kind of laid out similar to the development manual. So you go through each step, and here's all your interactive permits. You click on one, open it up, fill out your application, email it directly to a staff member. And again, this is all a work in progress, so we're still trying to get all our ducks in a row. Is there any questions?
I think just praise that you're taking this to such an easier process.
Pretty impressive.
It's me and all the staff. It's everyone over there. We're all been, James and Miss Page and Miss Trinity and Andrew and everybody's been working really hard on getting this stuff all done together so that it flows smoothly.
So is this manual, these are available now for contractors to come pick up? And
yes, they are.
Perfect.
And the little packets in the front, those are the actual 7 steps that are in the manual. So you have the full manual and then these little brochures. If your development doesn't need all 7 steps, like say it's already been zoned and already been platted, so you can skip the first 2 and go right to the 3rd step, the permitting process or the site development process. Or if you don't need any of that and you just need a construction permit, you can go right to the permit. So you don't have to actually have the whole manual. And the back of the manual is all our city ordinances, design schematics, specifications. So a contractor or developer can go right in there and instead of trying to search through the codes or through the city ordinances, how many parking spots do I need? Is an easier condensed version that they can find. How do I stripe, for fire lanes? It's all in there. And as we get more details, more information, we'll add them to the back to make it the process even hopefully more efficient.
Very cool.
Thank you.
We've bragged on Water and Wastewater Department. Let's brag on Planning and Community Development Department.
This is awesome.
Good stuff.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I'm very proud of our department there under Mr. Mack's guidance and with Mr. McGee, Mr. Hooten, everyone else on board. When we've been trying to do for the last 2 years, we've been trying to create consistency, we've been trying to create fairness, we've been trying to create efficiency in the process through our pre-development meetings. We've seen a major uptick in those. We're seeing a lot of good communication between developers and our staff up front. Before you start throwing hammers around, you come and work with us. And so we've seen great strides in that. This document here is designed to help developers and anyone who wants to get into the field know what our ordinances are, because there are, you look here, you look there, you look here, it's all in one place now. And so, and as they said, we've streamlined the permits so that they're not as confusing anymore. So if you want a permit for X, here it is. And so I know personally that all the staff have been very involved in this. They've all contributed to this from the front end staff who actually deals with the person coming into the office to Mr. Mack's level who deals at a higher level. They've all contributed to this. So I've been very impressed with this process, and I really do think this will help. Again, make us even far more builder friendly, and so for our community. So.
Grayson, I'll say this. When Mr. Bolton got up earlier and said and commended the staff, that's huge. That's the test right there. When a developer comes up and says, hey, it's been nice to work with the city staff, that's huge. Because I know that's been a problem that we've had in the past. Hey, not anymore. You guys are working your tail off. And I mean, I'll go and defend you all day. I see it. So just putting that out there.
And I think some of that is perception only, not reality, so. All right, thank you. Item number 15, discuss and act on a non-binding resolution indicating support for the proposed Forest Brook Estates mixed-use development to be located at 3375 Jefferson Road, Paris, Texas, making other findings and provisions and providing an effective date. The time is 6:42, and I'm convening the City Council into executive session pursuant to Local Government Code Section 551.072 to discuss this item.
Actually, this particular item is going to be under 551.087. That we're going to take item number 15 into executive session. And then you've got item 16 that are the remaining executive session items.
Okay, you want me to go ahead and read those? Item number 16, convene into executive session pursuant to A, Section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. B, Section 551.087 of the Texas Government Code to discuss or deliberate regarding commercial or financial information that the governmental body has received from a business prospect that the governmental body seeks to have it locate, stay, or expand in or near the territory of the governmental body and with which the governmental body is conducting economic development negotiations, or 2, to deliberate the offer of a financial or other incentive to a business prospect described by subdivision 1 as follows: Westgate Apartments. Section 3, Section 551.087 of the Texas Government Code to discuss or deliberate regarding commercial or financial information that the governmental body has received from a business prospect that the governmental body seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the territory of the governmental body and with which the governmental body is conducting economic development negotiations, or 2, to deliberate the offer of a financial or other incentive to a business prospect described by subdivision 1 as follows: retail development.
Mayor Portugal, so sorry. I just want to make sure, for the record, I recuse myself off of agenda item 16C.
Okay.
Yes, if y'all would just have a motion to allow him to recuse himself.
I'll make a motion to allow him to recuse himself from 16C.
I'll second.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Okey-dokey.
7:35.
35.
The time is 7:35 PM, and the city council is now in open session. Item number 15. Do I have a motion to approve a resolution indicating support for the proposed Forest Brook Estates to be located at 3375 Jefferson Road?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 7-0. Number 2, approve a contract of sale and purchase as discussed in executive session with Maureen Hammond of the PEDC. I hear a motion.
I make a motion.
Thank you. A second. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries 7-0. Item number 16B requires no action. And item number 4, 16C, no action. I will hear a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? It's unanimous.
All right.
Yep.
Have a good one.